Hi, I'm Danielle, and welcome to this Enchanted house. Today, we are going to tackle a cottagecore project inspired by the icon of cottagecore, Fallout. You know Fallout, the video game series about a post-apocalyptic United States in an alternate timeline. Cottagecore stuff, right? So if you aren't familiar, yes, Fallout is a video game series that combines the sort of 1950s mid-century aesthetic with post-apocalyptic aesthetic, and not necessarily what you think of when you think of cottagecore, honestly. There is an exception, which is Fallout 76, which is the latest entry into the franchise and is an MMO. So it's played online with lots of people playing together, and I play with my husband all the time. So the other thing, besides being an MMO, that makes Fallout 76 so different than the rest of the entries is that unlike the rest of the entries, which take place around major metropolises like Boston, Washington, D.C., L.A., Las Vegas, where bombs fell and the countryside was obliterated, Fallout 76 takes place in West Virginia, West Virginia was largely untouched in their timeline. It was not directly bombed in any sense. Washington, D.C., so they get a lot of radiation, and people did take to the shelters, the Vault-Tec shelters, which are the sort of staple. But 76's timeline takes place before all the other games and involves settling, coming back, the people coming out of the vaults and trying to resettle this sort of untouched area of Appalachia. And if you've ever been to that part of the country, it's very beautiful, and the game does a great job, I think, of capturing it for a video game. It's perpetually autumn there, but there's all these beautiful trees and you're in the mountains and there's streams, and it's very lovely. I mean, there's also hideous mutated monsters trying to kill you, but since it's a sort of untouched forest area and it's a very rural area, it already has this sort of farmcore, cottagecore aesthetic to it. There's lots of great little farmhouses you find along the way. It's lots of nature, very pretty. But there's one town in particular in this sort of map, which is Helvetia, West Virginia, which is a real town. The town was founded in 1869 by Swiss settlers and is sort of in a very isolated spot, so it's kept a lot of its culture and traditions, including a celebration called Fastnacht, which is a celebration to celebrate the end of winter and the return of spring, and where they put on these fancy masks and they have these big bonfires, and the game actually does recreate that, and it recreates this entire little village. And the thing I love about both the real Helvetia and the game one is all this wonderful folk painting as on all these cute little cottage buildings. It's very inspired by German and Swiss folk painting, and it's very lovely and super cottagecore. Where does this project lead into what, and where are we going here? So my front door kind of was looking, well, the paint on my front door was starting to peel off and it was kind of looking kind of bad, and I needed to repaint it. Also, it was painted grayish. I know, tragedy, right? And I could just repaint my front door. I could just repaint my front door an interesting color. Or I could take inspiration from a door that is in the game. One of the features of the game is they have camp building, where you can take a spot of land in the game and build a camp, or really build a house. And there's all sorts of amazing camp builders out there who make these amazing structures. But they release all sorts of building sets and plans you can learn to help to make all sorts of different things. So if you want to go Raider, Mad Max-ish, there's stuff like that. If you want to they have the Brotherhood of Steel, who's sort of this military group. They have that. But they have released a set based on Helvetia, which involves all these sort of beautiful folk paints. And one of the items they've released is this door. And I love this door. It is on my my main house, which is like my farmhouse. And it is... I just absolutely adored it. And I was like, I want to do something like that in my front door. Now, I ran into some problems. The first is this door is shaped very differently than my front door. So I had to adjust it. The other thing is I wasn't sure I wanted to paint my door white because, well, I appreciate the brightness of it. I always worry white ends up looking dingy. And you may have noticed I like green. So my first decision was I'm going to paint this dark green and then recreate this pattern on it with this in a lighter color. The other thing, like I said, is the shape of the door. This door has a different window, and the pattern goes up around the edge of the door. My door didn't lend itself to doing that so much, but it did have these great, these great 4 panels that you see on like most doors. I thought, what if I put the pattern in the panel and have like these painted panels on there? So that's what I did. That's what I decided to do. So this was definitely a process, and the first step was I had to kind of clean off the front door and sand everything down and get the surface ready for painting. Welcome to my front door. That's it behind me. And it's like really beat up. Like I have really tried. This is one of those projects I've been putting off for like almost over a year and a half now. I think I probably should have actually done it like two years ago, but so yeah, there's a lot of issues, of course. Like it just needs to be done, but also it's grayish, and like, I mean, I just talked about in my maximum video, like, I am very anti-grayish, and I want some color out here. So yeah, we're gonna paint it. I'm gonna sand it, and then I'm gonna paint it a much better color, and then I'm gonna try to make it a little unique and fun and some great details. So yeah, so first up is sand it, and I'm not gonna film myself sanding it because it's like will be me with a sander just staring at my behind, and I don't think that's what you guys want to see. So let's use the magic of YouTube cameras. And it's sanded. And then also my neighbors started mowing their lawn. Well, anyways, it is sanded, and mostly the idea of going through and just getting rid of all the like really flaky paint that was coming off, and trying to get as smooth as possible and give a really good surface to paint on. So it's been sanded, and I've wiped it down, and we're gonna start painting it. This is where I learned my door is not actually entirely wood. There is like a panel on there, so I had to go real light with the sand. I didn't want to like scratch the panel that was underneath. So there's my door is made up of wood but also plastic, and then there's the side. The other issue is there is this side light panel to it, and that was actually looking more beat up. And my theory is that there is a storm door, and the storm door protects the door but doesn't protect the panel, and that's why the panel's gotten a little more beat up. But so I went through, sanded everything, got everything prepped to paint. We've got everything sanded, washed everything down, tried to get it as clean as possible, clean surface as possible. Taped everything up I don't want to get paint on. So now it's time for a color reveal. If I can open the paint can. That's what editing's for.
Why don't you there's actually a tool for that.
I don't know where it's at. And this is my paint color. It's Hunerd green, like Hunerd green. Like, they were really confused when I said this. Like it should be Hunter. I'm like, and I was like, yeah, but that's what the computer listed as in the little card. So it's Hunerd green. But I don't know. I thought it was really, it's not grayish. But I'm going to go in, I'm going to start in by cutting in around all the things that are taped, so, and then we can go with the roller, and that'll give me a little space between doing roller bits.
Now it's not painting.
Yeah, I just finished. That's like gonna let this dry. I was gonna move out to the porch.
Yeah, those would let to dry.
Yeah. The next step was to figure out how to put the pattern on there. So it's been a couple days, and here is the painted door. I just wanted to let it cure and dry for a little bit. I absolutely love how this color came out. I'm not sure if the camera is catching it quite. All right, so yeah, with this color, we are definitely not recreating the Fallout 76 door exactly, but then my door isn't exactly like it to begin with. Instead, what I really loved is that idea of the flowers painted on it, and I actually love that pattern. So what I did was I took a screenshot in the game of the door, focused it on the pattern, and then used a graphics program to create this. This is an outline, kind of roughly, of the pattern. What we're going to do is we're going to take some transfer paper, and we're going to use this, trace this onto the door, and then we're going to paint it. I'm not entirely sure exactly how colors think. You know, this is a bit of an experiment. I'm using this light green for the vine part and the leaves. I think it's really going to pop on the door. Then I've got white and yellow for the flowers. I might do the petals on my door white, because on the door they're white because it's a white background. And I think that'll add a little extra pop to it. And then do like the little yellow accents. And then hopefully also we're going to paint. There is like a little flower that up at the top. I'm going to maybe put one up here, and then maybe put one up here with a little bit of a flourish, just to kind of complete the design. So that's the plan. We'll see how if things go according to plan, and let's get started. It didn't work out. First of all, I didn't get transfer paper. So this is the point where my daughter enters the story. It's afternoon. Hi, Aurora. Aurora's going to help me paint the door. Okay, so just a slight change of plans. The tracing paper didn't seem to work well, and luckily I have given this. My daughter is a very talented artist, and so she's going to freehand it, which is something I was very afraid to do. I don't know. I'm always afraid of the happy birthday effect, where it's, you know, you start writing happy birthday, and then like you've got the big B, the big I, and then like days all like crammed at the very end. What?
Hey, your upper panels are taller than your lower ones.
Oh!
This is too big for the lower ones.
Oh, see? More discoveries. That's okay. I trust you to freehand it, like just.
Okay. I'm probably just gonna make these bottom leaves like a little bit shorter.
That's fine. Well, I know the side panel is actually much smaller.
Okay.
I measured the front panels, and I didn't think to measure the bottom of the front panels. I was like, oh,
these ones are actually quite a bit taller.
Oh wow. Yeah, if you need to cut, yeah, you can make just a smaller design then too, I guess.
Okay.
Also, if you want to paint the outline, then I can go back in after and do the fill in.
Okay.
Because you see how it's like an outline?
Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what you wanted there.
Like I want, like, so leave like the little petals, like the top part's like the flower.
Yeah.
So, like, the circles are supposed to really. I think I'm gonna fill them with white. Like the little one's gonna be yellow, and then there's gonna fill them with white, and then put little yellow spot dots at the end of them to kind of match the pattern. But progressing here. So Rory's been painting the outlines, and I'm going through and filling them, and just painting. Okay. That looks good. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better than that. Not that this looks horrible bad. It's like what I wanted, but yeah, I think it needed to be thinned down. It might be a combination if I scaled it too big.
See, I thought you wanted kind of chunky because the thing you printed out was kind of chunky. So I could have gone like thinner lines, but...
Well, I think it's more, I scaled it, I traced it, but the thing I think it was traced, and then I scaled it up and it made the thin lines chunky. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But no, I like it cleaned up a little better. And I'm going to bring her in, and we are going to talk about what happened. So I am now here with my daughter, Aurora, Rory Reynolds. And so she is the talented artist who ended up doing my door. And so we're going to talk about the process with her, because she kind of, she took over, but it was the best thing that happened. So I guess my first question is, I asked you to help. Why'd you want to help?
You're my mom and you told me to.
I could have said no.
Bullshit.
I don't know. I mean, I asked for a lot of things and they never happened, so I just, But were you actually interested in doing it, I should say?
Yeah, I know. It wasn't a particularly, like, big ask or, like, hard project. Like,
okay.
In fact, if I'd stuck to your initial concept, it should have taken all of, like, 30 minutes. But I have to do everything in the most inefficient way possible.
So let's talk about my initial concept. What did you think of the initial concept, just in general?
I thought it was cute.
And, like...
I saw the vision.
You saw the vision, okay. And what do you think of the inspiration? Like...
I mean, you know I don't play Fallout, but...
I know you don't play Fallout, but... Like, the more going to the original inspiration, like the Helvetia, the German Swiss folk painting.
Yeah, I hadn't even, like, heard of this place before. Like, I think you were like, Helvetia. I'm like, do you mean Helvetica? That's in Switzerland.
Well, it is Swiss. It is Switzerland, so we're talking Swiss art. But, so, for the initial thing, it did not work out the way I intended. We had, the first problem the transfer didn't really work. And I should point out, we didn't use transfer paper. We used the technique you have, which is...
Yeah, tracing paper. So a lot of the time, I learned this in, like, an illustration course at school, but I'll do, like, my sketch work on tracing paper and then sort of rub the back with, like, a stick of charcoal or graphite or whatever, and then retrace over those lines on top of it with the graphite side facing whatever I want to transfer it to. And it leaves, like, sort of a light copy or rubbing of my sketch that I can sort of, like, polish up the line work on the final thing without getting so much of, like, the messy scribbling that a lot of my sketches are.
So, yeah, and the problem with that was I think it was just going to be too dark on the green paint.
Yeah. If we had, like, a white chalk or something, I feel like it might have worked.
That's true.
But, no. With graphite, or pencil or whatever, it just wasn't going to show on the dark green door.
Yeah. So you ended up freehanding it.
Yeah, you suggested something else, and at that point I was just going, you know what, it would be faster to just do this the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I think I was suggesting maybe I was suggesting I'll go get some transfer paper, or that we could cut it out and trace it on there. And you're like, no, just she just freehanded it, and you did a really good job freehanding it.
Thanks.
But I think part of the problem with the way it looked was when I scaled it up, it made it a lot thicker than I originally intended.
Yeah, and you hadn't really, like, communicated that, so I thought you wanted it kind of chunky because that's what you handed me.
Yeah, it did seem chunky because it was the outline, but once you filled it in, it really looked chunky.
Yeah.
So that was the next part, was I was like, hey, do you want to clean this up?
That part was that was really the tedious bit.
Yeah, the problem was I didn't feel confident enough to do it myself, and you did such a pretty job on the first one. I'm like, can you just do this? But then I let you have free reign.
I was left unsupervised in my defense.
You weren't left I was coming out and checking every so often, but I let you. You were like, I said, I was kind of like, hey, because I had different thoughts. Like,
At first, I thought you wanted, like, an exact replica of the door in Fallout, but then, because I said something when I was, like, freehand painting it on there, and you're like, it doesn't have to be exact, I'm not going for a replica. And then the gears started turning. I'm like, well, if it doesn't have to be a replica, this would look better this way, or if I did this. Compositionally, I think there needs to be something here.
Yeah, so, no, I'm kind of glad I just let you loose on it, because what happened was, like, nothing, like, I absolutely love the Fallout door that inspired it.
Like,
alright, so the original Fallout door, like, I did love it, but I'm so glad I gave you free reign, because it just took it to this whole other level, and I think both in the Fallout door and my recreating it, the idea was, and pretty sure if even the designers is like, let's do something simple.
Yeah.
That's because the more complex you get in a computer, the more it takes up memory and stuff. And my thought was, I'm going to keep it simple because I was originally just going to try to do it myself. But yeah, letting you have free reign, it took it to something that's completely fairy tale. Like, I feel like you could find this door in like a Disney, when they did the over the top Disney type, like it'd be in.
I felt like it's like in the Shire or something. Like I know it's not round, but it's very hobbity to me.
The Shire, it has a definite like fairy tale fantasy quality to it that I just adore. Mm-hmm. So, talking about your process, actually, when you freehanded it, one thing that really impressed me was how you scale things. If I'm here,
Hand me that pen. Something.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not good at explaining things like verbally, so sorry in advance. If I knew how to say it, there wouldn't be a need to paint it, right? But I guess kind of what I do is I'll usually I use like a pencil or paintbrush for this. You can use a ruler if you want to be particularly anal about it, but I just kind of like do kind of one of these with whatever I'm drawing, like looking at the camera. I can go, okay, so to the scale of my pen or pencil or whatever I'm holding, this needs to be about this long on the paper. And then I'll make like my little dots or lines. I'm not drawing the thing. I'm not nothing like it. It's just kind of like a schematic, I guess. Like I'll make these little points of the edge is here, this is where the spine of whatever is, this is where like this intersects, and then having like done that little pre-drawing thing, I'll go in and sort of sketch things to scale.
Like, was there anything you learned from this? Like, did you learn, because you've kind of been like over your art student journey, you like explore different mediums, and
I go wherever my weird crazy muse takes me. I don't know. House paint was definitely like a different thing than, because I usually paint with acrylics. I've worked with oils before, watercolor, gouache, what have you. This was a new like medium for me.
So I'm pretty sure it's like a water-based latex. That's what it is. I have to double check. They'll say I'll put it right like here what it was.
Like it doesn't really blend at all, but which we didn't really want it to for this project,
yeah,
particularly. But the main thing was like how it dries and crusts onto the brush, and how it sticks to things. Like, by the end of the day, on like the second day of working on it, when I was doing all that really fine detail work, like the brush, I might as well just picked up a stick. It was hard. Like the bristles were not soft. Like it had solidified in there.
Yeah, well that's why when I brought up the brushes, I brought up like my worst brushes, like the worst brushes I had, because I was like, I do not care what happens to these. I'm probably going to throw them out here shortly anyway. I think you did the same thing when you went to go back and do all your little detail work, right? You said?
Yeah, because I brought up my worst brushes as well, but even they were still artist brushes, just very old and worn ones. And mostly I needed something smaller than what your brushes were.
Yeah, I think
yours, you had a lot of like very like flat brushes. You had a lot of like horsehair bristle, or like the really thick kind of ones that show texture in the paint. And I'm like, I need something soft, I need something synthetic, I need smaller, and I need smooth.
Yeah, I think part of that was part of the problem, was anything I had that was fine detail, was nice, was my nice paintbrushes that I wasn't going to. The things I use for like dollhouse miniatures or like detail painting when I do the repaints for the plastic. So it's like,
I have a lot of brushes, and my big ones like that never see the light of day because I refuse to use them for anything. But because of that, I also have like a lot of small ones that have seen hell and are ready to die.
Yeah. So my question is, would you do something like this again?
Yeah, sure.
Anything you would do different?
I might do a little bit more pre-planning than I did. This was kind of on a whim.
Well, it's kind of like
making it up as I go.
Well, it's kind of like Mom had a plan, and then we threw the plan out the window, like with it, like in the, like 5 minutes in. So it was like improvisation, but it was really good. Like it was really, that's one of the really impressive things, is how much you improvised.
I might try to break it up over more days rather than try to marathon it all in one on my one day off.
Well, we did the initial
thing after I got home one day. And then I had like one Sunday off, so from like the time I woke up to, I think I packed it in at like 9:30 at night.
Yeah, it was.
And by the end of that day, like the last thing I did was like those flowers in like the upper parts of the door, and I still think that part looks bad.
Yeah. Well, I think they look, the flowers turned out pretty. would go back after she did that because she did have some paint. I went back where she did have some paint spillage and stuff.
Yeah.
I went through and tried to cover up that as much as possible. So in those corners where I could see where you kind of tried to paint over, I went over and painted it again. So I think it looks fine now.
Yeah.
I don't think that the problem wasn't it was just I think you were tired and you just didn't. You're like,
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like I think maybe towards the end it was not my best work, and it would have turned out a little better had I broken it up.
But I think it's also one of those things that you notice it, but I don't think anyone looking at the door is.
Especially if you're looking at it from a distance.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh!
Did I get lipstick on your sleeve? I'm sorry.
Did you really?
Just a little.
That's okay. It'll come off. I promise. But yeah, so Rory Reynolds, I'm going to put links to all her stuff down below. She is the amazing, talented artist. I have her art all over the house because I steal it constantly. This is her right here, the axolotl pot that's become a staple now in all my videos. Yeah, I'm going to have her stuff below, so if you want to check out her art, please do so. I mean, I know I'm being proud mom here, but she really is very talented and does some amazing artwork and has stuff for sale, so.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Tumblr. I'd really appreciate it if you gave my stuff a look. If this kind of fairy tale thing is your vibe, I do more stuff like it occasionally. So yeah.
Yeah.
Come say hi.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you too. It was a journey, and my expectations are blown out of the water, and I think this is the lesson here is if you have someone who's willing to do it, willing to help you, there's nothing, or if you can hire someone, honestly, my daughter did this sort of as a present for me, and I love it, but if you can get an expert to do it, sometimes that pays off. And I love, this door ended up 1,000 times better than I could have ever imagined. And I'm so glad I just let my daughter I kind of presented her with my initial vision and just let her have control, and it turned out beautiful. So the next step was, the problem with the paints is trying to weigh all my options. I wanted to stick with a similar base paint to the base paint. And that left me going to the paint store. The problem is you cannot get exterior paint in the sample jars. You have to get the bigger ones. And I didn't want to buy that much paint just to do this mural because I knew it'd be way more than I needed. So I went with an interior paint with the same base, and got the colors because especially with the white, there's just little details of white. I have actually a lot of white left, and that can be used for other projects inside. Actually, all of them can be, and who knows, maybe we'll see. But that meant that it's an exterior paint, and I'm worried about how that's going to last. I ended up consulting with the lady who runs the paint counter at Lowe's. She was super helpful. We went through all the options. I originally thought I would do a brush-on varnish, but she said she thought that would yellow and that it might not cohese with the paint as well. And so I ended up going with a spray paint varnish, a Rust-Oleum spray paint, also in a satin finish to match the finish that was already there. So I ended up having to retape everything off and spraying everything down, but hopefully it will last. And here's my thought on this is the door is actually pretty old. It's 20 years old anyway. By the time that starts to wear off, my hope is that maybe it would just be time to get a new door anyway. But for now, I absolutely love it. The final touch was the old door knocker. And there's nothing wrong with the old door knocker. I actually was originally maybe going to keep it, but I was let's see what other options there are. And I found this really great dragonfly door knocker. And I was trying to match, there are already 2 holes in there for the door knocker. I was trying to match something with those holes, and either I measured wrong or the Etsy site where I bought the knocker was wrong. I'm not sure which it is, but they're a little off. What we ended up doing is we ended up using the bolt from the old door knocker to fill one of the holes, and then used drilled a new hole and put the door knocker on, and it's just like this extra touch that I just absolutely love. So yeah, that is my cottagecore door inspired by Fallout. And yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Have you guys attempted any similar projects? You know, questions, comments below. Do you play Fallout 76? If you're on Fallout 76 and you see Valancy Jane, wave and say hi. That's me. So if you like this video, please give it a like. Please check out some of my other videos, and if you see what you like there, subscribe and catch up with the latest and the greatest. I'd love to catch up with you guys on social media. There are links to my Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr down below. I hope you guys have an enchanted day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!